Hey everyone, welcome to the show. So, we need to talk about some betrayal from the left of the left. This is some left on left violence that's going on. And we also need to talk about how the Democratic quote unquote leadership needs to be changed out and why. Because they're going to destroy the party. They're absolutely going to destroy the party. They're going to tank our chances in the midterms. And at the same time, they're trying to portray progressives as the ones who are going to blow it and destroy our chances in the midterms, which is just so ironic and laughable. So here's the deal. Hakeem Jeffries was just on Meet the Press. Okay. He's asked about the DSA platform. Now, I could understand if he said, I'm not on board with everything on the DSA platform. No, he decides to go on the attack and say that he doesn't support some of the most popular parts of the DSA platform. This is how either out of touch or paid off this man is. Those are the only two reasons that I can think of. Either he is so inept, so incompetent, and doesn't understand where the base of the party is, where the country is as a whole, or he is just so bought and paid for that he doesn't want to go up against his big dollar donors. So here's what he said about Medicare for all and abolish ICE. So in regard to Medicare for all, he's like, yeah, no, I don't support that. I don't support a single payer system. I'm not for that at all. Okay. And then they asked him about ICE, and he's like, yeah, no, I think that ICE is out of control. We need to reform it. But no, I'm totally against abolishing ICE. Then the DNC meets. Over the weekend, they had a meeting. This was on Saturday last weekend. And they passed two completely different competing statements, two different policy statements, because they couldn't get it together and figure out which was best. So this was specifically related to ICE. So one statement said, yes, we want to abolish ICE. And then another statement said, no, we just want to reform it. So here's the deal. Don't take it from me. You don't have to believe me, a progressive, of whether or not these policies are popular, whether or not this is the way that they should be going. Okay. Take a look at this. This is the Medicare for All poll that was just conducted last week. This was the Economist YouGov poll. Take a look for yourself, guys. A plurality strongly supports Medicare for all. 20% somewhat supports it. So, let's see, let's do the math. 64% of respondents in total either somewhat or strongly support Medicare for all. You know why? Because people can't afford health care. People can't, even if people can get it, they can't afford it. And you had Jesse Jackass Waters over on Fox News today saying, oh, here's an idea, get a job. Yeah, people have jobs. It doesn't mean they have health care. Not every employer gives health care. Freaking moron. What an elitist piece of shit. How does he not know that? How does he not know that millions of Americans across the country have a job and still don't have health care? Or I don't know if it's different in other states, but here in California, the only thing your employer has to do is pay $100 a month. $100 a month. You know what that buys? Jack shit. Doesn't buy a healthcare policy. Even if they offer you health insurance through the company, that's the bare minimum that they have to do. And many employers, that's what they do. And then in regard to the whole abolish ICE thing, check this out. This is a poll, same, Economist YouGov. This was from July. So you can see here, it's not a majority, but 48% either somewhat or strongly support abolishing ICE, not reforming it, abolishing it. And then 12% are like, yeah, I'm not sure. So, tell me again how the Democrats are doing these moderate Democrats, these middle of the road, corporate owned, centrist establishment Democrats. Tell me how they have their finger on the pulse of the nation and what the majority of Americans want. Could be why their favorability rating is in the freaking dirt. Could be why they're not that popular. Take a look at this. This is the RCP average. This is polls this all throughout this entire year. Okay. If you look down the list, you will not see Democrats coming even close to 50%, which means I think the highest I saw on here was like 44%. And that was the most recent. And that was only one poll. That was CBS News. So you have most people in this country do not like the Democratic Party. This is one of the reasons why, or these are the reasons why, because they can't pull their heads out of their asses long enough to understand. Why do you think the Republican Party has such a high approval rating? It's not because they're so great and they've done so much. They do, or what's good for the country, I should say. They do what their base wants. So their base gives them a high score. That's why when you poll Republicans, they love Trump. When you poll Republicans, they love the Republican Party because they're listening to their base, because they're doing what their base wants. It is the polar opposite with the Democrats. The base is going, we want health care. We want government paid health care. We pay a shit ton of taxes every year. We should get something out of it, not just funding a fucking genocide in another country. And the Democratic Party goes, la, 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 la. I cannot hear you. No, nope, they don't want it. I'm not for it. Nope, I don't think our base wants that. So I'm not going to support it. Listen to your voters. Dance with the one who brung you, as the song says. I think that was a song. Maybe it's just a saying. I don't know. But anyway. And here's the other thing. Democrats are aligning themselves with the MAGA scum of the world, people like Laura Loomer, to stop progressive candidates and shut down their events. Check this out. So what you're going to see are two Democratic candidates. They're running in Florida tomorrow. Their primary races are in Florida. One of them is running against Jared Moskowitz, the guy who calls himself the Ron DeSantis Democrat. Tells you everything you need to know about him. The other one is running against, what's her name? Debbie Wasserman Schultz, who is another one, Moskowitz and Wasserman Schultz both sold their souls to Israel, refused to call it a genocide, refused to say anything negative about Israel because they take a shit ton of money from AIPAC. So here is what these candidates had to say about an event that they tried to hold, and they got kicked out of the first two venues because of what MAGA and some other Democrats did to them.
Oliver, why don't you pick up on that? Because I think people will be pretty shocked to learn that you've got elected Democrats in the Florida Democratic Party who are making common cause here with Laura Loomer and the likes of, she's like just blatantly bigoted Islamophobic person. And she's not the only one on the right that Florida Democrats are sort of making common cause with here.
Yeah, Randy Fine, the bigoted Islamophobic United States representative from the 6th District, also was in Fox News saying that we were not supposed to have Rashida Tlaib come to our district and rally with us, that this was, again, what Elijah said, making these spurious claims and accusations. A lot of it's projection, right? I mean, these are some of the most bigoted Islamophobic figures in the Republican Party. And unfortunately, as Michael Gottlieb revealed himself, someone who would make common cause with the far right to suppress the voices of Democratic voters and try to get in the way of exercising our First Amendment rights to freedom of speech. So we had a strong degree of confidence in the second venue, the Downtown Event Center. I was actually there for the CARE South Florida Gala that Angie Nixon spoke at. But the pressure campaign, the harassment, the targeted hate that we saw motivated the cancellations of these two venues. We're talking about hundreds of calls that were made. And like Elijah said, threats that were made personally against candidates, against attendees. And it's just unacceptable. And the Democratic Party, especially down here in South Florida, really needs to make a choice, because what we're talking about is collective liberation. We're talking about an end to genocide and an end to apartheid, and making sure that the actions of the Israeli government is not putting people in our districts, including Jewish Americans, at risk by getting the blowback of these, very anti-Semitic claims that just try to paint the Jewish community as a monolith and ascribe the actions of the Israeli government to people in South Florida, including Jewish Floridians, who just want to see us address the cost of living crisis and not contribute to breaking both U.S. and international law.
So just trying to do the right thing, and they are getting thrown out of events, or not thrown out, but they are getting shut down and told, yeah, you know what, you're not going to be able to do your event here because we're getting so many calls of hate and threats, and we just don't want to be a part of this. And it's not just Republicans that are doing this to them. So as you heard him there, he mentioned a Democrat, Florida Democrat named Michael Gottlieb, who is literally aligning himself with Laura freaking Loomer, one of the most vile, disgusting people on the planet. And then you've got Jared Moskowitz, too, out there, siding with Republicans, going on Fox News, slamming other Democrats. Again, calling himself a Ron DeSantis Democrat. It is sickening. Sickening. With what Ron DeSantis has done to people in the state of Florida, making people of color and anybody in the LGBTQ community terrified for their life. I mean, what he's done to women, to women's rights in that state. And Jared Moskowitz wants to align himself with that as a Democrat. So, guys, go out, vote these fuckers out tomorrow. It is way past time. They have got to go. All right, guys. Thank you all so much for watching and listening. Please like, share, and subscribe. Please donate if you can. Love you all. Take care. Talk with you soon.